topic for discussion today is ethics, positive emotions, and resilience skills. This module is going to have two parts. The first part is going to explore resilience skill. What is it? And what is the role of ethics in resilience? We are also going to look at the cognitive skills that increase resilience. We will explore when our thinking gets in the way of resilience and how to challenge that thinking so that we are more self-aligned and resilient. Well, in our second part, we are going to explore emotions. We will also talk about mindfulness and how through practice of mindfulness, you can manage your anxiety. We will then go to explore positive emotion. Why is positive emotion important in resilience, especially in the light of uncertainty hovering around a recurrence of coronavirus? And we are going to do a close look at gratitude, the attitude of gratitude, and why gratitude is essential in enhancing our well-being and our resilience. Finally, our second part is going to explore your character strengths. You can ask yourself the question, who are you at your best? What are your top character strengths? Maybe that is curiosity, or love, or playfulness, or humor, or spirituality. And then we are going to talk about how you can use your top character strengths to overcome challenges, to bounce back from your setback. Now let us move on to part one, the definition of resilience. All right, let's get started. So what we are going to do here is explore the concept of resilience. What is it? And I want to identify for you the factors that the science tells us are critical in contributing to a person's resilience. After we do that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on our variable, and in particular, and that is ethics. And I'm going to convince you of why ethics matters so much in terms of our resilience and our well-being, and also in our relationships. Okay. Now, before I give you various definitions of resilience, I want you to think about your own definition. Resilience is a word we all use. So how do you define resilience? Here is what I would like you to do. Take a minute and write down your own definition and write down some keywords that popped up in your mind when you hear the word resilience. Okay, let me guess. I'm guessing some of you have written down the word flexible. That you know that part of resilience is about being flexible and being able to try new things when something you are doing isn't working. I'm guessing some of you wrote down the word overcome or overcoming, because you know that part of resilience is overcoming whatever life puts in your path. That's a common word we hear. Some of you probably put down the word strength or mental toughness, because you know that part of resilience is in your mind. It's how you think about your life. It's how you think about adversity and stress. So those are some very common words we hear when people think about the word resilience. Now, less common words. So see, if you wrote down the word love, we don't hear that often, but I hope to convince you that love and strong relationships, knowing who you can rely on no matter what is going on in your life, that is critical in resilience. So is gratitude. As I said, love, so is gratitude. Did you write that word? We know that gratitude is one of those emotions that help us connect to others. We are going to explore that. Now, how about faith? That is the word that we don't often hear. But attachment to something larger than you, bigger than you, feeling part of something bigger than you is very critical in resilience. All right. So let us talk about definitions of resilience. Here is one that I particularly like. It is from researchers Togage and Fredrickson. They define resilience as characterized by the ability to bounce back from negative emotional experiences and by flexible adaptation to the changing demands of stressful experiences. Well, what I like about this definition is that it talks about flexibility, being able to try different strategies so that you are able to meet the demands of whatever that challenge is. I think that's really important in resilience. University of Pennsylvania, from where I have done a course on resilience, has a slightly different definition of resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity. Resilience is also the ability to grow from challenges. It is not only that it helps you to get back on course when adversity strikes, but also it gets you skills. It helps you to learn and grow from the stresses and challenges you confront. Now, let us talk something about what are the factors that contribute to resilience. A set of factors that contribute to resilience relate to self-awareness. By self-awareness, I mean, how often do you hit the pause button just for a second to ask yourself what is going on internally? How often do you notice what your thoughts are and whether those thoughts are helpful in that particular situation, or maybe getting in your own way? Well, another part of self-awareness is tracking your ethical values and emotions. So in a moment in time, you can identify what you are feeling. Another part of self-awareness is not just tracking your thoughts, stimulus, and your emotions, but also your reactions. When there is a stimulus, there is a reaction also. How do you react to it? Okay. So that's part of self-awareness. Another part is of self-awareness. Okay, that is about knowing your strengths. So being as deeply aware of what your strengths and values are and how to leverage those strengths and values to overcome challenges and problems. Another factor is self-regulation. It relates to your ability to not just notice your thoughts and your reactions, your physiology, but also your ability to change your thoughts, your emotions, and your physiology. An important part of self-regulation is goal setting. We know that it takes a lot of self-regulation and control to reach our goals. And we also know that having goals, having a vision for ourselves, for the future is very important. Okay, there is another factor that matters is mental agility. By mental agility, I mean the ability to look at things from multiple perspectives. It's being able to look at situation not just from one vantage point, but from multiple vantage points. A significant part of mental agility is problem solving. Just basic skills and being able to identify the root cause of a problem, and then to be able to identify solutions and enact those solutions. All these things put together makes mental agility. We also know that good intellectual functioning is very important for resilience. It contributes to problem solving and perspective taking. So mental agility is another bucket. One of the factors that we are going to talk a lot about falls under the title of ethics. Ethics might be considered as the engine of resilience. It gives us the courage, perspective, and attitude to continue to persist. You are able to separate out what you can control in that situation and what you cannot control. Something that ethical folks do courageously very well is that they think about stressors not as threats, but rather as challenges, rather as opportunities to prove your worth. So when there is a problem in front of them, they have the challenge in front of them. They have a mindset of, yay, this is a challenge. I can overcome. I'm going to lean on it. As opposed to this, versus this, if you don't have that courage, then you consider it as a threat. And you say that I'm going to withdraw. So ethics is a critical, is very critical in resilience. Well, there is another set of variables that relates to self-efficacy or self-mastery. So variables like knowing what your talents are, knowing what your strengths are, having a I can do it attitude. Okay. The belief that you can master your environment is very important. You need to explore your character strength and how knowledge of who you are at your best contributes to high self-efficacy. It contributes to the belief that I can master my environment. You can use your character strengths to deal with challenges. So self-efficacy, mastery is another grouping of variables or factors of resilience. An additional grouping of variables or factors is connection. A very common finding in the resilience literature is around relationships. A critical variable in resilience is having people in your life. Maybe just one person in your life who you know you can rely on. Where that relationship is robust and that you know that no matter where you are and where that other individual is, that that person is thinking well of you, and that you can rely on that person for support when things start getting hard or difficult. Another aspect that seems very important for resilience is spirituality. Feeling attached or connected to something larger than yourself or larger than you. So maybe that is not only a relationship, it might be your faith. It might be a deep connection to nature and a sense of a spirituality that comes to you when you are out in nature, maybe in the morning hours or whatever. The attachment to something larger than you might also be a mission, a particular mission, okay, to a purpose, to an idea. In our college, we have a mission. I have a purpose through, values-based happiness course to spread happiness all over. Something that you believe is critically important and worth fighting for. Now, the last grouping of factors can be described as positive institutions. That plays a very important role. It can be family institution or the community or your workplace, your college, that either can support and further grow those interpersonal variables or can erode those over time. If the conditions are not good, that can erode all those factors. So if you grow up in community where you are not safe, if you go to a school where you feel threatened every day, if you are growing up in a family where your basic needs aren't being met, that is going to be harder to maintain high level of resilience. So here I want to talk about skills to build self-regulation, how to regulate or change your thoughts, emotions, physiology, when those things are getting in your way. They're acting as a great obstacles internally. I want to describe you what are mental agility skills. And I want to talk about ethics and positive emotions. I want to talk about character strengths. And I will also be exploring some strategies for strengthening your relationship with others, including your own self. Now, generally there is a confusion between certain terminology. I would like to clarify this. That is ethics, morality, integrity, and honesty. 4 things. That is ethics, morality, integrity, and honesty. What is the basic difference between all these? Okay. We are doing a little bit of a deeper dive into ethics. Okay. Ethics to me is one of the most fascinating factors that contribute to resilience. It is so important in terms of your well-being, your physical health, your emotional health. We are going to talk all about that. Ethics, to me, I have defined ethics in terms of ethics is manifestation of values in the behavior or conduct of a man. What I said, manifestation of values in the behavior or conduct of a man. It is values resonating in one's action. Values in action is ethics. So it is values resonating in one's action. It is the belief in ethical work culture or ethical value system. I have defined it in the form of an acronym. That is, ethics consists of actions with values like E, equality, T, transparency, H, honesty, I, integrity, C, consistency, S, systemic, that makes the word ethics. Ethics is a universally acceptable principle that does not differ from person to person or place to place or time to time. For example, backstabbing, whether it is New York or it is, Jumri Talaya, is considered unethical in both the places. Everywhere, backstabbing is considered as unethical. I think part of the reason that I am so fascinated by ethics is because I am recovering defeatist temperament. And so I have come to really appreciate the importance of ethics. And that ethics is something that we can all learn and teach. I can learn how to think more ethically. This is the message that we give to all in our college through Center for Ethics and Values that we established in 2010. Okay, so we have talked about how you perceive ethics, and we have talked about definitions of ethics. Now let us clearly differentiate ethics with morality, and then honesty with integrity. Ethics and morality, which we generally believe to be the substitute of each other, has some differences. In first sense, ethics is a discipline. If we have to define, it's a part of philosophy. So in first sense, this is the first sense that ethics is a discipline, a branch of study. Okay. In this sense, ethics is a part of the philosophy in which we study morality. Okay, so the philosophy subject, under that philosophy subject, we study ethics, and morality is part of the ethics. This is in the first sense of, the meaning of ethics. Okay, so this can be either moral or immoral or amoral. When we talk of morality under ethics, okay, it can be like, and it talks about, normative. What should be the way of living? What should be the purpose of life? It talks about dharma, arth, kam, moksha. And what are the right ways of attaining those purposes? Domain of ethics. But if we take the second sense of ethics, okay, this was the first sense. The second sense of ethics, that comes from external pressures. Say formal rules and codes of conduct of a profession or institution. Okay, whether it is chartered accountant, lawyer, doctors, they have a code of conduct. Okay, so you have to abide by that. Okay. So ethics come from external pressure, whereas morality comes from internal pressure, say your conscience. Okay. So ethics, in this sense, is compliance of the professional code, while morality is obeying personal values, personal beliefs. Also, in one sense, it is, objective. The rules and codes are same for all, while morality is subjective and may differ from person to person. Something that you consider, immoral may not be considered immoral by others. Okay. For example, non-vegetarianism is permissible in India, so we are not unethical if we follow that. In some section of society, it may be an act of immorality. Besides such points of distinction, you have a provision of punishment for doing unethical act. If you, don't follow code of conduct, action can be taken on you. While you only develop a guilt feeling for doing some immoral act, okay, that you have done something wrong. It's only your guilt feeling. I don't think there is any kind of punishment. Okay. Now let us discuss the difference between integrity and honesty. You are called a man of integrity when you have achieved full integration of trust, grit, and gut in your personality. Okay, I repeat. You are called a man of integrity when you have achieved full integration. Okay, not partial, full integration of trust, grit, and gut in your personality. Well, honesty is also a good trait. But integrity is far more respectable and valuable than honesty. Honesty, for example, is following rules and regulations, not committing fraud, not expecting, more than the salary that you are given. Honesty is also being punctual, being committed to the duties. But integrity has a deeper connotation than honesty. It is a situation when there is full integration of values, virtues, and conduct. The integration is in a rock solid manner. Okay. While honesty is seen in the eyes of other people. This is another subtle point of distinction. That honesty is seen in the eyes of other people. Integrity is seen in your own eyes, through your own eyes. It is something like when no one is looking at me, I look toward myself. Okay, so even if no one is looking, doesn't matter. I don't, do any, dishonest work. That is integrity. So honest person can sometimes falter or slip a bit from honesty. But a man of integrity will always be conscious of his own inner self looking at him, own inner conscience looking at him. He will never allow developing guilt feeling. A man of integrity will never allow, develop a guilt feeling within. So integrity is a deeper degree of honesty. In simple sentence, we can say it is a deeper, degree of honesty. In a ladder, okay, in a ladder of values, okay, if you make a ladder of values, and integrity is at a higher pedestal than honesty. Now, what is the relationship between integrity and honesty? The relationship between integrity and honesty is you can climb the pedestal of honesty without integrity, because integrity is at a higher pedestal. So you can climb at the pedestal of honesty, okay, without having integrity. But you cannot climb the pedestal of integrity without reaching honesty. First honesty, then integrity. So integrity is at a higher pedestal than honesty. Now, next point of discussion is mindfulness. How mindfulness, helps you in reducing your anxiety level. Okay. Before we get started with the new content, let me do a quick review of what we have covered so far. Okay. So we started off by discovering what resilience is. Okay, that was the first. We explored the science of resilience to identify the variables that really matter in cultivating resilience, ability of resilience. Then we did a deeper dive into ethics, one of those variables, and we explored how ethics strengthens mental health and physical health, and also relationships. We talked about the behaviors of ethical people. Well, now we are going to shift gears again. And in this section, we are going to start off by looking closely at anxiety. Well, anxiety is a good emotion to most, okay? So it's okay. You should have anxiety, some anxiety. Some amount of anxiety motivates us. It helps us to have the energy to tackle situations in front of us. But when our anxiety is too high, it has the opposite effect. It can deplete us. It undercuts our well-being. It undercuts our effectiveness in the world. After we explore anxiety in more detail, then we are going to shift gears and talk about the importance of positive emotion. So first we are talking about anxiety, and then we'll see how positive emotion helps us. Okay. Emotions like joy and gratitude and love, and how positive emotions are instrumental in keeping us resilient. Well, I'm going to showcase the emotion of gratitude in particular. Okay. Positive emotion, gratitude. Gratitude is one of my favorite positive emotion, most favorite. I will talk about why gratitude matters so much. And I want to talk to you about what science tells us are the benefits of counting your blessings, of developing an attitude of gratitude. And then we will have you practice gratitude with some simple exercises. Let's get started. All right. So let's talk about students needing anxiety to get them sort of in the frame of mind to maybe study when they really don't want to. So look, anxiety is an adaptive, healthy emotion. Okay, it makes a student study. The problem with anxiety is that sometimes the level of anxiety is too great and it is mismatched from what is actually going on. That may be a dose, a small dose of anxiety would be beneficial. Intense anxiety, agitation, stop us from taking purposeful action. Well, mindfulness and attention are closely linked. What we are talking the use of mindfulness in reducing your anxiety. Mindfulness is a particular way of paying attention. So when you pay attention to what is happening right now, in your present moment, you are being mindful. So mindfulness is a behavior, a conduct. It's something that you do. Mindfulness is also a trait. Some people, just for whatever reason, are more likely to be tuned into their present moment experience, to take more information that is directly coming from their senses, to think less about the future and the past and more about what's happening right now. Momentous, okay? Less thinking about the future and the past. We know actually that people who are like that are less anxious and are likely to have a more positive mood. That's really mindfulness as a trait. So it can be a state of mind, something that you do right now, or that happens in the moment, a particular moment. Okay. And then there is this particular thing that is central to the way that we teach and practice mindfulness now. Okay. And that's mindfulness as a training activity, or another way of saying that is mindfulness practice. When we practice mindfulness, we take this part of our mind that is, awareness. Okay. And we know that if you do it again and again, if you bring your attention into the present moment and rest it on something, allow it to remain here, over time, the neural system that manage attention in your brain begin to change. And you are more likely to stay in the present moment in a way that affects both what you notice of your experience, how much you pay attention, for instance, to other people while you are interacting with people, how much attention you pay on the other people, and also the way in which you are less likely to be swept away by emotions. So it affects emotion regulation too. Okay, being mindful, you can regulate your emotions also. So mindfulness is a practice. Like you practice the piano to do that better, a state, like something that happens in a moment, and a trait, something that is a more long-standing part of what you are, but that can be cultivated through constant practice. Well, there are a lot of things that happen as a result of learning to practice mindfulness. One very important thing is that people's mood is unquestionably brighter. Really, the most important thing that happens is that people start living their life more fully. How? Through mindfulness. It is that they start to feel differently about themselves and their lives in a way that is really profound living. One of the most common comments that I hear from someone who has just completed 6 months values-based happiness program of School of Happiness at Ramanujan College is that I joined this program because I was getting angry, or I was stressed, or I wasn't sleeping. But after doing this course, I've overcome all such deficiencies. I was able to change my whole life. So mindfulness is really a powerful tool for undoing anxiety. Okay, this was part one. Well, let's move on to part two, which is also related to what we have done already. Okay, and in this part two, the first point that we are going to discuss is about emotion is positive emotions broaden. Broadens your horizon. Everything. This is the subheading. That positive emotion broaden. There is more to life than just having less bad stuff. Okay, if you do not have any disease, that doesn't mean you are happy and healthy also. Okay, so we are going to turn to the science of positive emotions and the role that positive emotions play in helping us to manage stress. Okay, and also to enrich our lives. So we are going to talk about the science of positive emotion. Now, the leader in the field of positive emotion is Barbara Fredrickson of North Carolina University. I strongly recommend you Google Fredrickson and read her work. Her theory is called Broaden and Build theory of positive emotion. What is that? Broaden and Build theory of positive emotion. You can Google it out. A leading psychologist, positive psychologist, Fredrickson. I want to talk about it with you. Okay, so before we get into the science of it, let us just get started with a simple activity for you. Take a minute, and I want you to generate as many different positive emotion words as you can come out with. Okay, so I'm guessing many of you had words like those: love or joy. Maybe you wrote gleeful. Maybe you wrote happy, exhilarated. You probably had a word like gratitude. Maybe you wrote thankful or appreciative. Okay, these are the words of positive emotion. But maybe that you have not written down the word love. Maybe, you have not written down the word interest. There is also interest along with love, hope, pride, amusement, inspiration. All these are positive emotions. And these are common positive emotions. But psychology has long understood the value of negative emotions only. Though there are so many positive emotions, but so far psychology only deals with negative emotions, how to get rid of that, how to overcome negative emotions. Okay. How anger helps us, how anxiety helps us, how sadness can help us. But we didn't understand that good positive emotions are. What are they? That's actually a title of Fredrickson's, one of the most popular articles, that is what good are positive emotions. And so, Broaden and Bill, Broaden and Bill, positive emotion. Fredrickson helps us to understand that positive emotions, just like the ones I mentioned, joy, contentment, gratitude, so forth, they broaden our attention. They broaden our awareness, and they help us to be more creative and more cognitively flexible. Now remember, from the resilient factors, what helps with the resilience? We talked about mental agility. Okay, mental agility was one of the variables that we said helps you to stay resilient. And so cognitive flexibility and mental agility are probably synonyms or close, are close cousins of each other. So what do negative emotions do? Well, negative emotions narrow down your thinking. Probably you remember that your attention got really narrowed. You maybe found yourself ruminating about the transgression, thinking about the person that transgressed you. Your energy and your thoughts probably centered on how do I protect myself? A deep sense of insecurity. How do I defend myself? How do I fight back? Hopefully, figuratively, but maybe literally. That's what negative emotions do. They narrow our attention, narrow down our horizon. Now, positive emotions do the opposite. Okay, what do they do? Positive emotions broaden our attention and they help us to be more creative. There is a whole bunch of studies that Fredrickson and her colleagues have done that helped us to understand this broadening benefit of positive emotion. So here is an example of some of her research. So they do an experiment where subjects are induced to feel a positive emotion. Okay, there were some subjects, some people who were induced to feel a positive emotion. So they do something to the subjects that bring on a positive emotion. And there is a lot of easy ways to help people to feel positive emotion. Very easy. Okay. Give them a piece of candy, ice cream, or anything, or have them read a cartoon. Okay. A laughter show, or watch a funny video. Giving someone positive feedback induces positive emotion. Okay, you appreciate someone, he will have positive emotion. Even reading a list of positive words, as I read, joy and so many things, love. Even reading a list of positive words can help us to feel a positive emotion. So they did that. Who? Fredrickson and her group. They induced positive emotion in their subjects, and then they had some subjects that had positive emotion and some subjects they kept in a more neutral condition where they didn't experience a positive emotion. So one group, positive emotion, another group, without positive emotion, a normal emotion. And they looked at the creativity of the subjects who were feeling a positive emotion compared to the subjects that were not feeling positive emotion, that were in a neutral emotional state. Okay, one group feeling positive emotion, another group feeling normal. Okay, in a neutral emotional state. Now, what they did is they gave the subjects an everyday object, okay, like a chair or a coffee cup or a paper clip, okay, to both the groups. And they asked the subjects to come up with as many different uses for these everyday objects as possible. So what did they find? Well, they found that the subjects that were in the positive emotional state, feeling a positive emotion, came up with many more creative uses of these everyday objects than people who were in a neutral emotional state. So you can see how, creativity improves. Now, another important aspect of this particular second part is positive emotions build resources. Okay, apart from broadening your horizons, it builds resources for you. Positive emotions broaden our creativity, our thinking. We just talked about that, but positive emotions do other things as well. They build valuable resources for you. Positive emotions helps us to have stronger relationships, to have greater resilience. They even can lead a better health. And I want to talk to you about the build aspect of positive emotion as well. What does it build? Okay. So what do I mean by that? Build. Well, when you are feeling joyful or happy, it creates in you a desire to play, right? It certainly does it in kids, if not in you, in kids. And when people play, we develop more social skills. We develop connections to other people. So it's building those resources, relationships. Let's take interest, a positive emotion. When you are feeling interest again, that's a positive emotion. Maybe your word is curiosity. When you are feeling interest or curiosity, those emotions spark a desire to explore the world around you, world that surrounds you, to explore the internet, okay, Google, social media, and that can build really important, intellectual resources, information, useful information. Positive emotions also build serenity. Apart from curiosity, it also builds serenity. So when you are experiencing serenity, maybe you think of it as a contentment. That's helping you to take a breather and slow down and build physical resources, your health, that can help you to rest and recharge, rejuvenate, okay, refresh yourself. Now I'm talking about gratitude research, okay. I was talking about a gratitude is a great positive emotion, and it's the most, important positive emotion for me, okay. Okay, so we have talked about the benefits of positive emotion and why positive emotions are so important in helping us to deal with the stress and enhance our resilience. Now we are going to talk about one of my favorite positive emotion, which is gratitude. So I want to talk with you about the research that has been done on the emotion of gratitude. There are lots of different researchers who study gratitude. Okay. One of the most famous researcher is Adam Grant at Wharton University. He has studied science of gratitude. And the leader in this field of gratitude is Bob Emmons. Bob Emmons. And so if this is a topic that really interests you, okay, I highly recommend his book, conveniently called Thanks. The title of the book is Thanks, okay, by Bob Emmons. Gratitude is a very different focus. In gratitude, you are not focusing on danger and threat. You are focusing on what you are receiving. What benefits have been coming your way? What goodness is there around you? Plenteousness, okay? So that's a very different cognitive frame. So what do we know about what happens when you cultivate a practice of gratitude? Let us try to know what happens when you build the element of gratitude in you. There have been a lot of studies in this regard. One study was done by Martin Seligman, under whom I have done a course. Martin Seligman and his group student, they conducted a research. They did this NEAT online randomized study. That is called NEAT online randomized study. So people went online and they were randomly assigned to a couple of different interventions, And here we are talking about gratitude intervention. And I will say a little bit more about that in a second. Another was what they designed as a placebo control. So in that intervention, the participants were told to journal about early memories. So you either were journaling, noting down about early memories, or you were in this gratitude intervention. And in the gratitude intervention, people were simply told to journal about 3 good things that happened, 3 blessings that they have got, 3 positive things that have happened. And I think this part matters. Not just to list those 3 good things, but to explore why. To explore, write down about your explanation for why that good things happen. So there was journal about early childhood memories, journal about 3 good things, plus your thoughts about why it happened. And they asked people to do that for a week. And then they followed those people and asked them to take a happiness index as well as a measure of symptoms of depression, happiness index as well as measures of depression. And what they found is that the people who were in the gratitude intervention showed increases in happiness compared to the folks that was just journaling about childhood memories, and showed decreases in depression 6 months later. Now, let me just say something. Journaling about gratitude for 1 week isn't going to lead to decrease in depression for 6 months unless you keep up with the activity. So those decreases in depression and increases in happiness and well-being were not just from 1 week intervention. Many of the people who were in that journaling about gratitude condition found it uplifting, and so they continued to do so. And that led to those longer term effects. Okay, when you are habitual of writing good things, okay, good memories, why it happened. Okay, so gratitude increases happiness and can decrease symptoms of depression. Okay, now, okay, what else does gratitude do apart from this? Well, people who make a practice of gratitude sleep better. Yeah, you're going to have proper sleep. Now, sometimes I can have insomnia. I'm guessing many of you have bouts where you are not sleeping great. Let's think about that. Gratitude isn't a focus on the threats or the dangers, right? It's a focus on the good things, what you are receiving. So, one way in which gratitude might facilitate sleep is that if while you are lying in bed at night, you are mentally rehearsing and thinking about all the good things that have happened that day. That's going to not engage your fight or flight response. It is going to engage more of that rest and digest so that your physiology is more calm, which is going to make sleep easier. Okay. We also know from the research that people who cultivate gratitude have stronger relationships. That if I am noticing the things that I am grateful for in Guy, or from my children, or in my colleagues, and I'm expressing thanks to those people, that's going to solidify our relationship. That's going to help our relationship be stronger. We also know that gratitude is correlated with stronger faith and spirituality. Now, I think this makes sense as well. Viewing the world through the lens of what am I receiving? Viewing the world with a lens of what I'm receiving enables you to feel attached to something larger than yourself, bigger than you. Okay. Now, if you remember all the way back to part 1, okay, what we discussed, okay, when we are talking about what are some of those important factors of resilience, one of the things I mentioned was feeling attached to something larger than you. That is actually an important part of what helps people to persist. Gratitude is certainly a way to feel attached to something larger than you. If you are walking through the world, noticing the beauty around you, that is going to help you to feel attached to the world, attached to the nature, and might bring for you a greater sense of spirituality. Along with that, when you are feeling grateful, you are likely to experience less materialism. Noticing what you have and being grateful for what you already have brings a feeling of contentment. And maybe because of that contentment, your desire to go online or social media and buy more stuff is quieted. How many pairs of shoes do you really need? And so, with a lens of gratitude, what we already have might feel enough. And so our materialism goes down. Materialism goes down and humility goes up. with gratitude. This wonderful quote by C.S. Lewis, I liked it so much. It captures, this quote, which I'm going to, tell you. It captures what humility is and also why gratitude might be a conduit to greater humility. So here is C.S. Lewis quote. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. I repeat, quote, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less, unquote. Let that simmer for a minute, because that is what gratitude is. Gratitude is not thinking less of you, putting yourself down. Gratitude is thinking of others more, opening your perspective to notice from others in the world that you are receiving. We also know that gratitude increases helping behaviors. So if I express gratitude to my colleagues, they are going to be more likely to help me. In fact, there was a study done by Adam Grant and his colleagues, and they looked at colleagues, they looked at, what happened in a particular college. There was a fundraising activity. And in that, there are students who are helping to fundraise for their institution. Okay, this is a study. And some of those college fundraisers were sincerely thanked by their supervisors. So the supervisor went in and thanked them for their effort and time in fundraising. On the other hand, some of the college students who were fundraising were not sincerely thanked by their supervisors, by their teachers. So that was the intervention condition. Some students sincerely being thanked by the supervisors. Some students who are, again fundraising, they are not thanked by the supervisor. And what Grant and his colleagues found was the students who received a sincere expression of gratefulness, of gratitude from the supervisor, made 50% more calls than those who were not thanked. So simply by receiving authentic gratitude, an authentic thank you from their supervisor motivated those fundraisers to make 50% more calls. Okay, those are some of the benefits that we see in cultivating a practice of gratitude. So again, physical health and mental health and helping behavior, so forth. But I want to not send the signal that gratitude is necessarily easy. Now, my guess is that there are many of you who are participating in this course for whom gratitude is easy. You have incorporated gratitude in your life in many different ways. Maybe you have done it through meditation, maybe through prayer. Maybe you are someone who has always found it easy to notice what you are receiving and to express your thanks for that. Others, however, might find gratitude a little trickier. So, as an example, I'm someone who has always felt deep gratitude. So I notice beauty in the world. I notice how other people are positively impacting me and what I'm receiving. But earlier in my life, say way back 10, 20 years back, I found it hard to express my gratitude to those people. I want you also to be thinking about what are some barriers that you have to expressing gratitude, and what would be different for you and for the people you care about in your life if you push back on those barriers, you remove those barriers which is coming in your way. If you took some risk and expressed gratitude more directly. Now, finally, I would like to talk about signature strength, your role of signature strength. All right. So we talked about increasing positive emotion and how having more positive emotion is going to help you to manage your stress and increase your creativity and build really important resources for you. Now, finally, we are going to talk about character strengths. We want you to be able to identify who you are at your best from a character perspective, so that you can use the best part of yourself to overcome challenges, your strong points, to create more positive emotion, to have stronger relationships. And we are also going to talk in this section about how to strengthen relationships with the people you love, with the people you lead, so that you are having greater intimacy, with your followers. Okay. How to have greater trust, a sense of belonging. And we know that strong relationships are at the foundation of resilience. So let us get started. We are going to start off by talking about character strength. Now I ask you to complete the values in action survey. There is a survey called Values in Action Survey. This survey was developed by Chris Peterson and Marty Seligman. And what they wanted to do was to have a list of the best of humankind. Okay, you have to, it will take about 2 hours. Okay, I have done that survey for myself. Each participant, I recommend to take this survey. You Google it out and you will get it. Okay, and in that there are 24 character strengths, character traits listed on that survey. Now it probably occurred to you, why 24? I mean, certainly there are more than 24 character strengths in human beings, but what Chris and Marty wanted to do was not just develop a survey of character strength of Americans in the year 2002. They also wanted to create a list and overview of the character strengths that are valued across time and across place. Okay, character strength that is valued everywhere on this planet and in every time. Now what they did was they clumped these 24 character strengths under 6 virtue categories. So by virtues, I mean justice, temperance, transcendence, the ability to rise above, wisdom, knowledge, etc. Wisdom and knowledge is a virtue. Courage is also a virtue. Humanity, connection to others is a virtue, and Chris and Marty looked at these 24 character strengths and suggested, for example, that if you wanted to live a life of temperance where you modulate and where you temper against excess. Likewise, forgiveness and mercy is a character strength that can be used to not have an excess of anger in your life. Modesty and humility can be used to make sure there is not an excess of arrogance in your life. Self-control and self-regulation can be used to not have an excess of chocolates in your life. So they talked about each of these character strengths as a pathway to living a life of one of these virtues. How do you create the life you want to live? Have greater resilience, greater meaning, stronger relationships by using deliberately the best of who you are. Okay, so the values in action survey, which is to me ethics survey. Okay, as I defined you, that ethics is nothing but values in action. Okay, when you take the survey, you get a score report that tells you the rank order of these 24 character strengths. So the ones at the top are called signature character strength. So I want to explore with you what we mean by signature character strength. Signature is, you dissect the term word signature and you come out with signature is sign of your nature, sign of your nature. The signature character strengths are like writing with your dominant hand. They are the aspects of your character that are most comfortable in you, most dominant in you, and they are your dominant character strengths. So the survey has been developed to help us to identify our dominant character strength, our signature character strengths. For me, this became really clear the first time I took this survey. I glanced at my survey profile, and at the top, I had spirituality and authenticity and beauty and excellence. And then I sort of glanced to the bottom of that list, and I remembered thinking, hey, something is wrong with the survey. It doesn't work because I so deeply value humanity. That means so much to me. Something seems to be wrong with Chris' survey. So for me, there are other parts of my personality that were interfering with my ability to translate that deep value into action, humanity into action. Okay, there is certainly some hurdle, some disturbance, some obstacles that is not allowing me to translate my value into action. I have a sense of time urgency, maybe. For me, life is all about, well, what is the next thing to achieve? Always, next thing, list to do things. It is all the time to-do list. Maybe some of you, like me, identified that there is something that you value that is not showing up in your actions. How are you going to build on that? If you want to, there are so many different pieces to this. Now I am summarizing the whole part 1, part 2. Well, this brings us to the end of our module on resilience, and I want to thank you and express my gratitude for your patient listening. Here is one more thing. I have been to workshops, seminars, and so many faculty development programs. I know what they are like. You go to a workshop and you get excited by the ideas. But then, life continues to happen, and some of what you have learned starts to fade. In due course, it starts to fade, whatever you learn from these workshops. So my challenge to you is to challenge yourself to identify at least one of the topics that we discussed together that really interests you. Maybe it was gratitude and the science of gratitude. Maybe it was ethics as one of the important factors of resilience. Maybe it was self-awareness, self-regulation, the character strengths, and knowing who you are at your best so that you can leverage those aspects of yourself to overcome challenges and handle stress. Maybe it was mindfulness. Whatever it is, I hope that you will identify at least one topic from what we have discussed that you are going to do a deeper dive into, and not just study it, but also to come up with behaviors that you can engage in, that you are going to commit to, that are going to enhance your well-being and your resilience. One of the things that I have learned, because I get to teach this stuff all the time, that some of these skills become more relevant than other skills. And so I also hope that you will keep yourself fresh on all of the skills that we have talked about, so that you have them in your toolkit, so that if something happens in your life where you need one of those tools, it is there for you to grab and use. On the discussion board, please consider what are a few of the ways that you are going to continue to apply these resilience concepts to your personal life, to your professional life. Share ideas with each other so that we are continuing to build our bank of examples and stories and experiences developing our resilience. So thank you very much. Okay. And I hope you have enjoyed with this. Okay. And let's hope that you apply them in your day-to-day life also. So thank you very much. Okay.